Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Layman's Law School. And joining us once again is my longtime compadre, Mr. Sean Merzlack.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, how you doing, sir?
Marvelous.
All right.
Great week as usual. A little cold, but
a little chilly. And Lindsay McCullough, that works with us now for it's just going on a year now, right?
Almost.
Yeah.
March 6th.
March 6th. All right. We'll have
what
a
is
big
your
party.
exact title that we gave you? Director of Marketing?
Queen
Director
of
of
Marketing.
Marketing.
I think it's Queen
Okay.
of Marketing.
Queen of Marketing?
Queen of Marketing.
Okay.
So,
Or Queen of keeping y'all's universe in
yeah,
check.
basically,
She does that.
She cracks the whip, and we do what we're supposed to do sometimes.
Well,
Like
she
show
told-
up to the podcast.
She put something on the calendar today to be there at 1 o'clock, and I was there at 1 o'clock.
Sean was there.
We didn't talk about it.
I was
I
a
asked
little
her when
late.
we got there, I said, did we talk about this yesterday? Am I crazy? She's like, nope, I just put it on the calendar.
I was a little late.
You
I was
were.
a little late. But better late
Then not here.
than not here.
Well,
And
I'm going to
just
take
gonna-
up for
I'm
him.
just saying.
He's just a Chase sitting
Okay.
here because he's doing his job.
Listen,
He's at a depot
we've had
being an
enough of
attorney.
Chase missing. All right. So today we're going to talk about what's going on with the TikTok ban, what it means, our predictions on what's going to happen. But before we do that, as always, as Reed Sanders tradition, we have our Bud Light specials.
Beautiful.
And so I guess we should go ahead and let the
Yeah,
good folks know. January turned
dry
into
January
dry-ish
It's a
January.
damp January for Lindsay.
But
I'm not going to give the exact date that dry January for Lindsay ended, but I will tell you it was within very close proximity to the shooting of the last episode. Maybe the same day.
well, okay. To be fair,
Either way,
we can kind of
Cheers
we can have a
to
mini celebration.
damp January.
January, but also on the last episode, we told the viewers that a lot of the people who watch our videos aren't subscribers, and so we did gain some subscribers. So I'll celebrate to that.
Cheers.
always.
Thank
Yep.
y'all.
Always, yep. You know, we try to add some insight with a little funny mixed in. You can choose which part of that you think is correct.
Sometimes there is more
Yeah.
fun than insight.
Yeah. So today, as everybody has been aware, there's been talk of a TikTok ban for a long time, and sometimes it gets aggravating in the fact that you call it a TikTok ban. That's not really what it is, and I think that this is an important distinction. This ban is it's a new act. It's the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. So the reason that that's
a
important,
mouthful.
it is, and I'm sure they'll have some kind of acronym. What is it? PAFAC? PAFAC? PAFAC?
If you say so.
PAFACA. PAFACA is the act, I guess. But anyway, the problem that people run into with calling it the TikTok ban is that this is not a ban of TikTok. This is a ban of what TikTok does. And so I have heard rumors, and people have seen it, different applications that people are running to from TikTok. Well, these other applications are going to be banned as well, and that's the problem that if this ban goes through.
Sure.
So that's one of the issues, and this happens a lot whenever it comes to making something that's legal illegal. They call it, whether it be marijuana or TikTok or whatever, but that's not the actual law. The law is much broader than that.
Although this law did specifically name TikTok
Absolutely.
as one of them.
No, without
Yeah.
question. But it
But
does.
it covers a lot more than
It
that.
covers a
Yeah.
lot more than that.
It
So
is
all these folks running for the red note, you ain't gonna be writing too many red notes either.
and it may not be shut down that day because they may not have they being the government may not have that kind of thing lined up, but it certainly is in violation of this act.
Yeah.
And so if you jump to this sinking ship, it's going to sink too.
Right.
Is all I'm saying. So it's more about what has happened so far and kind of where we are. And so to give you kind of a brief, and by no means I'm not an expert on all things TikTok, but ByteDance is what actually owns TikTok. That's the parent company, and essentially it's owned
by China.
China.
It's not owned by China, the country.
Right.
Like, it's got to be owned by some corporation or something.
Right. And the major...
Do you not know that China is a communist country? That means the government owns everything.
That's a solid point by Mr. Merzlack.
That is a good point.
Ding, 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 ding. I'll give you one for that.
World history for 1,000.
So this is a balance over... This is an argument and a balance over national security and the freedoms that we're entitled to, mainly free speech. And so what matters more? And that's the balance that we're fighting right here. Okay. And that's really what we're talking about, is what comes first? Does your individual right come first, or does the safety of America come first? And that's what the issue is.
I'm going to go with safety of America.
Sure.
And it appears that based on what was filed this morning by the justices of the United States Supreme Court, that they agreed with that as well.
And to be fair,
what was
you're talking
ruling?
Just to give everybody home. We filmed this. Obviously, it doesn't go out the same day. Today is Friday. What, 15th, 16th? Help me out.
This is 17th.
I don't
January
know.
17th.
I've
January
had the flu.
17th.
I've had the flu. My brain's a little wacko. So 17th. So at this date, there's 2 days left before this ban is supposed to take place. And Sean, I know you read the Supreme Court ruling. Tell us,
the United States Supreme Court essentially just affirmed the District Court of Columbia's prior opinion, or Court of Appeals of District of Columbia, saying that this was not a violation of the First Amendment, free speech, or anything, and that the ban could go forward because it was instituted by Congress. Initially, it was a presidential type.
It was
action.
In April. President Biden in April of 2024 set the deadline for this act to go into place on January 19th. Obviously, we know that now that President-elect Trump will take office January 20th. And I read today that President Biden has said, and I don't know if this is true or not, so forgive me if it's not, but he said he's going to withhold taking an action on TikTok until President-elect Trump takes office.
So that means he's not going to be the one taking an action.
Right. That's I don't. It's strange because the deadline's the 19th. But
there's so many things that I could say with regard to inaction at this point, but I won't because we're not going to get political.
This isn't a political podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I did think that was an interesting tactic. However you like it, don't like it, whatever. That is interesting because you set a deadline of the 19th, and that's not – that number wasn't just flippant, right? That number just didn't come out of thin air.
Yep.
That deadline was set because you knew if you lost the election, you still had that power. So it's strange to me that as the president, that you would say something that I had set up that went forward – I don't want to take the heat on.
Well, and I think that it was in the law something about 230 or 270 days after implementation. That's when it would go into effect.
It just happened to be right.
Just happens to be on the 19th.
It's strange.
But no, essentially the petitioner in this case, who was the person that was seeking some type of remedy at law, was TikTok. And the United States Supreme Court said that, TikTok, you're saying that your First Amendment rights have been violated by this ban.
Right.
And the Supreme Court said, no, they have not.
Right. And one thing I want to point out, and this is a very good distinction, and I think people need to understand, is that TikTok, the company, has been ruled that their First Amendment rights have not been violated.
Ooh, can I ask a dumb question?
Absolutely.
Maybe not a dumb question. All right. If TikTok is owned by the Chinese and or China, then how do they get to come and say to the U.S. Supreme Court, you're violating my First Amendment rights when they're not American?
Well, it's like any major, corporation type thing. ByteDance and TikTok are formed under the laws of California, registered as a company in California.
And real quick.
And probably incorporated in Delaware, like many companies are.
And I've
but
stated
the
in
actual
hold on,
person that owns that company.
1 second and continue. I've made it clear I disagree with it, but corporations are looked at as people. Under the eyes of the law. Go ahead.
Yeah, so anybody could go and start a corporation in California.
Okay.
But when you look at everything, the actual company is owned by China.
Yeah. Sorry, I just thought of something very random.
And there could be, I'm sure there's some shareholders
something very
out there
random
that are,
in a conversation over dinner.
Companies.
One time where someone was like, they had met with a businessman from China, and the comment that the businessman made to this American businessman was like, if you knew how much of Texas was owned, I think it was Texas, was owned by the Chinese, it would scare you. Yeah. And I was like, that scares me that you just told me that story. Yeah. Don't even want to hear that.
It should be scary.
Yeah.
I mean, there should be no reason that another country should own a bunch of property in the United States.
So
it absolutely shouldn't. And that's one of the things that I think this particular act that was passed is trying to avoid.
Yeah.
TikTok has 170 million users, the most prolific type of this social networking type app that we have out there. I don't use it. I don't have it. Reed has it. Lindsay has it, but I don't know anything about it.
I only have it for work. I don't really like it personally.
I have it for pleasure. There's a lot of good stuff on there, a lot of funny stuff.
But what they're saying is that the proponents of it and the people who passed the law is that the information that TikTok is gathering from its users and gathering from people that aren't even its users, like if you are sharing. If you agree, which I'm sure it's not something that is very conspicuous. I'm sure that when you sign up, you're just agreeing to all this in the terms and conditions. Yeah. You're sharing all of your contacts with them, all of the information contained in your iPhone contact, their address, their what they do for a living, any photos that you have them, things like that. And they're saying that the Chinese government has a law that they can obtain this information from any Chinese company. Gotcha. So if they want to, they could say ByteDance, or is that ByteDance?
Yes.
ByteDance.
Oh, you got it right. We know you have trouble with
turn
names.
over all this information to us, and then they could use that.
It's no Baldoni.
Hey.
ByteDance. I better be quiet.
Yeah.
ByteDance.
The trolls might start.
So that the Chinese government could possibly use this information against American security interests.
Right.
Which is what I would expect. I would expect my government to be worried about this on my behalf in the world.
Sure.
Like, this is not. I don't see. Quite honestly, I don't see a problem with having a TikTok ban if that's the true reason.
Right.
And I think we're gonna dive into something a little bit. Right.
I'm gonna play. I agree with what you said, Sean, and I agree on this sentiment. But I'm gonna try to be a little bit of a devil advocate here in that maybe that's not the real reason here.
Yeah.
All right. It's looked at as this balance between personal rights and security or national security. But it just may be, that some other people that have other social media platforms that aren't doing as well would love to have that. I think you said 180 million.
170, I think.
170 would love to have that 170 million share. And some of these actions that have taken place, if you think the main reason for this, I'm going to quote it here. It's essentially the Chinese government access to American users' data and the possible spread of misinformation through the app. Right. So if we're real concerned with misinformation through an app, don't you think that we should have some kind of retribution or some kind of action when it comes to Facebook, Instagram, when Mark Zuckerberg has admitted
that they don't
to filtering specific things regarding the election, Democrat, Republican. So if that is the real issue, then why aren't you having both sides? Right?
I totally agree, and I hate them all. I hate them all. There's
You don't even have
There's
Facebook.
winners or losers in everything, and there's always people that are.
I'm just saying that the person leading the charge of this is not doing it for the safety of America.
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg is not doing it for the safety of America. He is doing it, as we've seen in multiple podcasts that we've had with multiple wealthy people, is to make more money.
Yep.
And so you can cover it however you want to. You can put lipstick on a pig, but this is what Mark Zuckerberg is leading the charge. He's got his new curly hair and he's surfing, so he's real American now.
Because he couldn't get that fight with Elon Musk.
Yeah, that's
I think he's always
That's
had curly hair. He just got it
So,
back.
I'm just saying there's other areas at play, and so that's when you get the 7-second soundbite of TikTok ban. It's not just that.
Yeah.
And the reason I harp on that a little bit is because that ByteDance actually tried to get all their data with an Oracle cloud service that is owned by America, and then they said that was not good enough. They being the new imposed act, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. Say that fast. But there's still a lot of other issues out there. So when I said TikTok has been shot down by the Supreme Court of not affecting their First Amendment right, what about the users of this? What about the people on TikTok who make their money from TikTok? There's TikTok shops, there's influencers, there's content creators that are their entire income is from this app. Now, just because the Supreme Court said it's not a First Amendment right for TikTok doesn't mean that it's not a First Amendment right for me or you. So there could be actions brought in that regard, don't you think? I'm not saying you're going to win. It's just a...
Could there be actions brought? Yes.
Before y'all get into this, somebody watching that goes, "Oh, I'm about to go sue the government because I made my TikTok."
Well, they
Let's
have immunity.
Be clear,
they have immunity.
okay, about what that means
You know,
and what it would take.
First of all, we've got a United States Supreme Court opinion already that says that they agree with the national security interest that this law is regulating, and that the law is content neutral. It's not trying to,
but it's only been
stop
challenged.
the Democrats from saying anything, or stop the Republicans, or stop this minority group from saying anything, or anything like that. So, I tried to be very, very simple with my thinking, and I was talking to Reed earlier.
Not simple-minded.
No, not simple-minded, simple thinking. We all know, there used to be a Craigslist type thing called Backpage. And Backpage was just like Craigslist, but they got in trouble, I guess, for allowing people to go on there and promote prostitution. Oh. And the FBI
I don't think I ever heard of
the
Backpage.
FBI shut them
Sean
down.
was well aware.
So I was saying, if I was selling firewood on Backpage, and the FBI came and shut them down because they alleged that they were racketeering, and
you can't go sue somebody because your firewood business is going
why
downhill, right?
wouldn't I just go to Craigslist and start promoting my stuff on Craigslist?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I asked Reed about. Like, if I was on TikTok and had this huge following, why wouldn't I just do a video and say, "Hey guys, TikTok's getting shut down. Sean Merzlak is going to Instagram or whatever the other social media platforms that I could do my product or services or whatever I'm providing on, and not really be affected." I mean, it's not that they're not taking away the medium for which you are conveying your message. They're taking away this particular company that is owned by the Chinese government, essentially.
You're taking the medium away. You're just not taking the ability to use that media. I mean, to create an identical medium. Because the medium is being taken away because it is different. It might be similar, but it's different, whatever you use. So, but I agree with you in that regard. But I don't know enough about technology, honestly, to know the differences. Honestly, I just don't. But there legally, I think that there are some claims that are potentially out there. And I don't think it's going to get to this, and I'll explain, and see y'all's opinion on it too in a second. But there's also a due process potential constitutional violation in this regard, not only to TikTok but to the users. And not so much somebody like me who's never posted a video. I go on there and laugh at the people on there doing silly stuff, right? Yeah. But there's people who their livelihood is. And so if I'm not saying they're going to win, but you certainly have a due process claim. Okay. So when the government takes something from you. What is a due process claim? When the government takes something from you, it has to be done, essentially in the lightest way possible, I guess is the easiest way to say it. The least harmful way.
You got to have a right to be heard
and state your case.
Correct.
And all that. And if they take away your property, for example, they have to pay you for it, right? If they need to widen the road, they got to pay you for it. And so if they're taking away something, if they're taking away a right, you have to have notice and opportunity to be heard. Yeah. And there's a laundry list of things, and that's all under due process. And so I'm not saying that this is going to be a winnable action. I'm just saying that there is a potential claim that there is a due process violation if you take away somebody's main income revenue and say it's shut down no matter what. Yeah. And like Sean said, you can change that to Instagram or whatever, but the amount of money you lose in that time period, if you have, let's call it 5 million followers, and then you try to switch to Instagram and you start from zero, that's going to take some time.
Also, that sucks.
And so that there's damage there, there's loss there, and if this wasn't done in the proper way, because of how this act has come about, especially with, I believe it is, let me make sure my notes are right. It is, Senator Edward Markey, who asked for an extension, and that was shot down. And I think it's come back up, but at the time it was shot down, the 17th now. That could give you some ammunition to say, hey, I didn't have due process. This is my whole livelihood. I never got a chance to say anything or speak my truth or whatever. And so I think that is an issue. It's just going to be something that's going to be litigated.
How are people making money off of TikTok? Excuse my ignorance.
I can answer
Go for it. You know more than me on this, for sure.
Well, not being a avid TikTok user, but understanding how they do it on Instagram, I imagine it's very similar on TikTok with shops and stuff. But so these days, what's come out of the woodwork are these content creators who are stay-at-home moms and people that are just trying to do these side hustles. They're just making more money. And what they do is they'll go to ChatGPT. And you can say, make me a guide. Let's I'm not saying this is what everybody's doing, but this is just an example. Make me a guide that teaches somebody, I don't know, the 5 steps to set up your own TikTok business.
I got you a good example.
And then they take that content from ChatGPT, they're going to put it into Canva and create their own little pretty PDF that gives these steps. And then they create what's called a stand shop, which is like a web page where you could go and download this. And so now they've set up their own business.
And you got to pay for that?
So they might have things on TikTok in their shop and say, hey, this guide is only $12. You can buy it and you can learn my secrets of how to set up a TikTok business. And people buy this.
That's one. But you get paid for views, and then there's also shops that they actually sell their own things.
But you
build woodworking or whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of that.
And you build your audience. So to the point of what you were just saying is, if you're building your audience up and you are starting this community, which in turn you're hoping that what do all businesses get the best business from?
Making money.
Prior customers.
Word of mouth. Oh, yeah,
word of mouth.
Absolutely.
So by building these communities, if you've got this huge following on TikTok, they're sharing your videos, they're suggesting them to others. Oh my gosh, I just downloaded this guide. Let me share it with you. It can impact your business for sure.
And I give you a good example. This is a very easy one. Is Matt Rife. Right? So you can come roast me, Matt Rife. I think you're a terrible comedian. You can roast me. I study comedy. I think you're horrible. You do great crowd work, but everything else is horrible.
I don't even know who that is.
He's a good-looking dude who made his way on TikTok and then became a famous comedian. And so he would have never been a famous comedian without TikTok. And so those kinds of little steps along the way, his fame is directly due to this app. And now he's kind of busted out and done other things. But there's a lot of content creators who are comedians or actors who their main, that's like where all their stuff is, where all their comedy is, or where all their acting is. And you know, and you can say that's just not a wise decision, which I agree, but that's where we are, right? And so if you take that away, I'm not saying you're going to win. I'm saying you have at least an action of a due process violation, in my opinion. Now, and because the Supreme Court has ruled on First Amendment so far, but they haven't ruled on due process. And it does make me curious of why the extension wasn't granted. Especially with the federal government, as many extensions as they give for anything else. When this situation is, there's a lot of different ways that you can come to a resolution without just cutting the head off.
Well,
right?
and many of the Supreme Court justices commented on
Did
it.
they? There's a lot of different. There's a lot of different. Yeah, thank you. Please.
Justice Gorsuch, in his concurring opinion, we have had a fortnight to resolve, finally, and on the merits, a major First Amendment dispute affecting more than 170 million Americans. A fortnight is 2 weeks for those that you don't know. The briefing on this case was due January 3rd.
It's insane.
Oral arguments were on January 10th, and this opinion today is on January 17th, which is crazy timeline compared to normal cases that we see,
and
where it's months before an opinion is made,
and months when it's talking about a case me and you do when it's dealing with 5 people, right? And because they're complicated issues. This isn't a yes or no, black and white issue, right? There's companies and people and all these. There's 180 million people involved in this thing. Yeah. And I think that's a great quote. I'm glad you said it, because that, without question, was said that way.
Well, and because they had no choice. Exactly. It's like this is happening on the 19th. Everybody requested it to be expedited. I guess we'll figure it out. And a lot of them commented on, this is, technology and ever evolving, and we're just doing the best that we can with what we got right now, with the mindset that, the security of America is at stake, and that's what they hung their hat on. Most of the things.
Well, and I've been kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit, but in my personal opinion, if you gotta have a fall one way or the other, I want you to fall on the safety side, right? You know what I mean? So I don't blame the Supreme Court at all.
If the ends justify the means, that's the way I want y'all to go.
If you're going to save a life or save our economy, or somebody, China coming in and getting insider information, absolutely.
We don't want a Red Dawn situation,
right?
Well, and just to be clear, the bill is not to shut down TikTok.
Right.
The bill and the implications of the bill was that ByteDance would have to divest their interest to an American company or a non-adversary government. So basically, China just had to sell their portion of that they owned of it. But obviously,
and I don't know the numbers on that.
Yeah, when you get put in that situation, though, it's not necessarily a fair valuation.
It's not a good. Let me ask you this, Sean. So if I'm selling Hawk Law Group to you, right, and you know that I have to sell it,
I'm going to pay a lot less than I would have otherwise. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's just not. It's not going to give them a fair, market value for it when you have the time constraints, and you're being forced to shut down essentially if the law continues to go through and there's no extensions made and things of that nature.
Okay, so I imagine that this is a question from a lot of people who don't who maybe there are people who don't follow politics, like certain people in the room, right? Like,
I try to stay out as far as I can.
But you still stay up, like you deep dive into a lot of the random news.
I just
stuff,
don't like
right?
any of them.
I do not. The most I learn about new stuff is usually when we cover it on this show. Okay, like that's when I'll go learn.
I'm
about
glad we
stuff.
can educate somebody at the Layman's Law
That's
School.
the whole point, right? So, but I imagine that some people are wondering, okay, what happens when TikTok gets banned?
Okay.
Does my app just shut off?
So, sure.
If I'm already a user, do I can I keep using it? And if someone catches me in the U.S. using it, am I going to be in trouble?
Right.
I imagine these are the types of questions that are coming from a large majority of TikTok users.
Well, after
You'll
I
get
answer
that
this,
404 error message when you log into TikTok if they shut it down.
Well, after I answer the first part, then I expect
Okay.
you to finish the rest because you know way more about this
Okay.
stuff than me. And the first part is that it is absolutely not going. It's not something that. It just means that it is removed from the App Store.
Okay.
All right. So now you can still go get it from the dark web or if Chase was here, he could explain the VPN, all that stuff.
Yeah, you
know,
can use. I
you
know
can
about
do
that
all
too.
that. Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You'll know more than
you
me.
could actually get a virtual private network that
Yeah.
would identify
Yeah.
your IP address as being in Bulgaria.
Right.
And download
And
TikTok.
download TikTok and then possibly use it,
Right.
According to Chase, who's not here.
But
I'm,
you
I'm speaking for him.
But you have to always use
Sean
your
is-
VPN to access TikTok, therefore not to get.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think that from now on we have to say you're speaking in Chase. Like it's a language. It's a language. But so to answer the question to start is that nothing's going to happen to the application on your phone. TikTok will still run. You can if you have TikTok, you have a TikTok account, you can still upload videos. People will still see those. The issue is that every application that you have on your phone or any device through this is constantly getting updates. TikTok is updated twice a week.
So you might not be
approximately.
getting the updates
And
anymore.
so it will not get any updates because it's not carried by the store. And that's who implements the updates, right? So what is going to happen, it'll probably work for another month. And it'll probably work for, I'm guessing.
I have no idea.
I'm guessing. And it'll probably, now it'll continue to work
no need to
forever,
download it
right?
now.
But it'll finally start glitching out where content creators won't use it anymore because it just is not going to work well, right? It'll get bogged down. It's just like an old computer does, and you can't use your old computer anymore, and then you get the screen of death, the 404, right?
Will the Hawk Law Group continue to post on their TikTok after the ban?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. You stay tuned out there. We'll see. But
We just started
but so Lindsay, you can speak more to how that's going to crash if it doesn't ever get worked on.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know way more about that than I do.
Well, I think the other thing too is, and I don't know how often, not being an avid TikTok user, but I am an avid Instagram user.
Yeah.
And so just understanding a social platform in itself, to your point, Instagram updates same, like at least twice a week. And not to mention the fact that Instagram is constantly adding new things for creators, different things they're experimenting with.
You have the filters and all the
Filters.
stuff.
You have right now they're doing something called trial reels where you can send a reel, you can actually post a reel and do it as a trial where it doesn't get showed to any of your followers, and they try and find new followers for you, so to speak, or an audience that would like it. That's a new feature that they put out through an update that is great for creators.
Sure.
So on the flip side of that, imagine if your business is built around TikTok and all these new features and things that come out are obviously to help you grow your business, and then you're not getting updates anymore.
Right.
You don't have the same advantages that other people do on TikTok. So your competition on TikTok, at least, that isn't US based, right? Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to our point we're kind of trying to make there is your business is
Sean, I got
hurt.
a good example for you to really see what will happen. I don't remember the name of it, but our case management software prior to the one we're using now.
I know exactly the name of it. I won't say it.
yeah.
But yeah.
I don't. But they basically were doing updates and it was working well, and then they just stopped and just let
They're
it
like,
ride.
we've made enough money.
Yeah, they just
Y'all
let it
can
ride.
continue to use it
So-
if you want to. But
And we did, and then it starts glitching. It starts
Sure.
messing up. So we had to change, and
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
If it continues this path, I really believe that there'll be something done because there's too many other options.
Oh, I think it's going to get bought.
Right, there's
That's
too
my
many,
prediction.
and there's too many other options. So it's not only just bought. I mean, you can have like Sean's talking, a subsidiary that actually owns or has legal authority over the information in the American. There's a different.
They've already tried that.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, oh yeah. There's another
that's the
subsidiary.
Oracle. That's the Oracle.
No,
part.
even something different. Another subsidiary that is supposed to control nothing but the U.S. based American data, and the government still says no, that's not good enough.
Well, why isn't Zuckerberg trying to buy TikTok? If it's such a big competitor,
why would you buy something?
Why would you buy something that you already have?
Well, no, he doesn't have it.
Well, I mean,
why would you buy something that is
if
about
you have
to be
your
given
hand
to
in the
you?
pockets of all the guys in the government who will just shut it
Why
down for
are
you?
you buying something when they're about to
sorry,
give it to you?
we forgot to mention there is a conspiracy theory part to the show, and we're about to enter.
I'm just saying, why would I buy something if there's there's two options, right?
Yeah.
And I own one of the options, and the other option's about to get closed down. Why would I buy that?
By a bunch of guys who have stock in my company.
Why would I buy that option? Because everybody's going to have to. There's only one option after that, right? So there's no reason for him to buy it. Now there could be a reason for the other crazy billionaires out there. Elon and Amazon dude Bezos and their craziness. They could come in.
That would be the ultimate cage match. Yeah. Elon buying TikTok.
Or they just have a cage.
I'm glad you just brought that up.
I'm just saying,
I've got to get on the phone, see if I can get in touch with Elon, see if we can put some funds together.
There you go.
I do think this is a fun little behind-the-scenes story for the audience. We had a completely different topic to do today, okay? However, Reed texted last night and sent us a video from TikTok, from some guy on TikTok that was talking about this. He had all his charts and stuff.
It was like a minute. It was like a minute.
It was a minute, but it was like this conspiracy theory of, and maybe this will be proved to not be such a conspiracy theory, but showing you all these members of Congress who actually have stock in Meta and how it's, honestly, to me, that's a conflict of interest. For them.
Our government is a conflict of interest. Because all you have is lobbyists who get paid a crap ton of money, and the way you get elected is you have to have a bunch of money. And how do you get a bunch of money? Is you get in the pocket of lobbyists. And that's why I don't like politics.
Reed Sanders, out.
Should we wrap this thing up? Or?
But I do think, and I think there's a lot of good people in politics. I really do. I think there's a lot of, and there's always the bad apples that ruin it. Mm-hmm. But to your point, there are a lot of people who voted for this ban, whether that be for real reasons or not real reasons, that own a ton of stock in Meta.
The only thing I will say as the contrarian to the conspiracy theory.
One more thing before you
is
start.
That everybody in this room owns Meta stock in some form or fashion, unless you are not contributing to a 401k or something like that.
I'm going to kill your argument.
All of those people that are in Congress and the Senate, unless they are very stupid, all of their financial business is handled by somebody else.
Sure.
So that they can avoid that. Now, whether or not there is like a phone call, I know you're handling my stuff, but please.
How do you view this? How do you
view
a lot
please
of
buy
them,
some Meta?
How do you view a lot of them buying a lot of Meta stock in the last week?
Because their financial analysts are the ones that are doing it for them, and they're seeing the same thing.
Well, I mean, some of them are prior to this knowledge coming out. We'll just throw that out there.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just saying.
There's rules, obviously, and laws against that. You can't be. I mean, you can't do that.
Exactly.
You say that.
I mean, they're obviously doing.
I would request a full investigation. And that's what our laws are based upon. And if there is anything proven like that, those people be absolutely prosecuted.
The problem is you can't prove it. And there's I don't know how, there's a million examples of, there are algorithms now that track senators investing because they know that they're going to know the knowledge before we do.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I'm not going to give names of these senators and all this, but the people who do that track it and just bid with them, make a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's where I'll end it.
Well, to end it, we need our predictions for what's going to happen.
All right, so I'll start.
Reed?
My prediction is that this will end peacefully, that there will be an extension of some sort. Biden's already kind of, bowed down a little bit because he's already said, well, I'm not going to call it,
Yeah.
going to let Trump decide. And then I think Trump's probably going to find a way to extend it. And then at the end of it, some American company or a majority owner will be at least on the American side, and I think it'll stay kicking. And it may be a situation where you have a month of it being dead, like we were talking about with bugs and everything, but it'll come back. That's my prediction.
My prediction is similar to Reed's, but I think that there's no extension. It gets shut down. Donald Trump comes in, convinces everybody that they should be on, what was his thing? Truth
Red.
Social?
I think it's Red something now, isn't it?
That Red Note's China owned.
Not that it's
that's right.
Not that
Sorry.
it's
You're right.
going to go there, but that in coming months, TikTok
platform.
and ByteDance get it figured out and either sell, the interest that the Chinese government has in it to a non-Chinese company. I think it lives on. I think there's going to be some interruptions in it, and I believe those interruptions will be this weekend, January 18th, 19th weekend.
Gotcha. Lindsay?
Okay. I don't know. You guys would have more insight, I feel like, on whether or not, like, the ban's going to happen or it's not going to happen. I'm gonna kind of direct my prediction in a different way. I think that it's very likely that it's not going to go anywhere, whether it gets shut down or gets extended, whatever, doesn't matter. I think that there will be someone that will buy it, an American company that will buy it. My other prediction is this, though, because I come from a generation that was here before social media ever existed. So I've watched the rise. We all have. Yeah.
I thought you were
I was
like
born
21.
Yeah.
So everybody in the room has watched the rise
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh that hard.
of
at Sean's
social
joke.
media. I don't know. Sean probably didn't have a MySpace.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not. Jesus Christ.
But you think about these different platforms where people get so obsessed with them. At one point, everybody had a MySpace. It might not have been as big as TikTok is, right? TikTok's been the biggest of all
Yep.
these things. But
It'll be a new one.
I think that they all have their shelf life, right? And so the other thing about all this happening, yes, there's 170 million. Some of that audience is going to be tainted because of this.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have people who, well, I'll use myself personally. I got TikTok personally and went on it and used it and was very entertained by it. I personally recognized that it was taking up a huge amount of my time and that I was spending hours scrolling. And then I watched this documentary on Netflix about how social media controls you, and I was like, I cannot be on TikTok. Like, it doesn't, for me personally, in my whatever, I can't do it. So I got off TikTok. The only reason I have a TikTok now is actually the law firm's TikTok.
Like and subscribe.
Exactly, because we're starting to post on it
Tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight.
And follow and whatever it's called on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Follow. But I think what's gonna again though, for me as a user, this doesn't make me want to jump back on TikTok, right? It doesn't make me curious. Did I go and download Red Note to see like what that was? Sure. And then when I went to it and 50%, maybe even 75% of it was in Chinese, and it asked me for my phone number and didn't even ask me to set up a username when I did it. And mind you, I might not have gone all the way through before I went, nope.
Yeah.
Let me get right back out of this.
Yeah.
And so I deleted it, delete the data.
Agree to these terms and conditions. They're all in Chinese.
Correct, right? And so for me, as I was like, it's not worth it to me to keep up with the times here or whatever. I just, was curious, more or less because I knew we were probably going to do a podcast on it eventually too. And so I was like, let me go down.
Are you and Bo going like flying anywhere anytime soon? Because you might be on like the terror watch list.
Probably. Oh, no.
Probably.
Just by what you've done.
By talking about Red Note?
No, by trying to log into this Chinese adversary site.
It's probably a spy site.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, to all those people out there, be careful what you
Exactly.
just don't. What's the old saying? Like, if everybody else jumps off a bridge, you gonna jump off a bridge too.
Depends
If
on-
everybody else is gonna jump to red note, you gonna jump to red note too. See what happens. So
Stay with TikTok. You're good. That's fine.
yeah, just stay with TikTok. It's all gonna work out.
That's
Somebody's
right.
gonna buy it.
There
That's
you
my
go.
prediction. But I do also predict that a year from now, we won't. TikTok
Even
will not.
though-
TikTok will not be at the top
big
anymore.
thing, yeah.
Something else will be up there. That's my
All right,
prediction.
Lance. Send us home. Send us home.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody
Enjoyed it.
watching. Yep, for sure. Don't forget, if you like our videos or you like to watch them, subscribe so you can get notified. And we hope to see you next time.